Hello, everyone. I'm John Higgins, contributing writer to Film and TV Now, and I'm delighted to welcome one and all to this interview special with actress Diane Franklin, who has been involved with film and TV for over 4 decades. And her latest role is a character called Sinead in Aaron Truss's new horror short PAREIDOLIA, which screens at the London Frightfest 2023 over the August bank holiday between the 23rd and the 28th of August this year, and it's at the Cineworld in Leicester Square. And we'll be talking about the short, but also some of her other career and experiences per se. And you know, we'd love to know a bit more about it. So, Diane, a warm welcome to you.
Thank you so much. And I so appreciate you having me on as a guest here. And also to for the viewers, I was an actress that worked in the 80s. I did a lot of films. So some of you may remember me from my work. I've done horror, I've done comedy, and then still acting today, which is fabulous. And I'm very excited about this new project.
Okay, great. So what exactly does the title, I mean, I've seen it and I loved it. I mean, it's a great short. I think it's going to play very well on the big screen. But what exactly does the title Pareidolia refer to?
Well, the idea of pareidolia is when you are seeing an image of something. It could be a pattern in a fabric, or perhaps even in lights, or maybe it's in clouds, or some kind of tree markings, and you see an image. And the image is something that is haunting, something that perhaps is makes you feel uncomfortable. It might be a face, it might be an animal face, it might be something that you feel as if perhaps there's some kind of a message in the thing you're seeing. And I think I've never heard in my whole career of a film taking this on as a horror platform. And I think it's a great idea. And that's one of the things, one of the reasons I agreed to do it, because I thought, wow, this is an interesting subject matter to deal with in a horror concept.
Okay, so what's interesting is that here you are, I mean, I've seen you in films for years. I mean, you're one of those character actresses who, you appear from time to time various things, and, fans will recognize you for one thing or another. I mean, there's certain films over the years that you'll
Like,
be
I played a princess, and I played a French exchange student, and I played a girl that, guys, I was like a dream girl in a film, but then everyone hated me. So there's,
but
and then
what,
I did have some a dysfunctional family in horror where, my family was, somewhat scary, and I do get murdered. So yes, those things
yeah.
do happen in a career.
But we'll touch on that in a minute about the actual dynamic of, we'll talk about genre and craft more than anything in here. So what I'm curious to know is, how did you get involved with the short film? Because it's very rare. I mean, we do see actors like yourself in some, but what was interesting was how did you come to know of this, and how did you get the part?
Well, I was friends with Stuart Morris, who runs a organization called the Misty Moon Gallery. And basically what happened years and years ago, he befriended me on Facebook, and he had an idea where he wanted me to come and be a guest at the Misty Moon Gallery. And so I became friends with him through his interest in my 80s career and my work as an actress during that time. And he was always very respectful and very supportive of the horror genre. So, and I thought, oh, well, this is kind of interesting. And I don't know, we became friends from that. And I normally do not do short films. This is something that is not, I just do not do them. But it is kind of interesting that in the last couple of years, I was put in this position where I was shown a short film, one short film. The first one I did was from I teach, and I'm a drama teacher as well. And so I went to speak at a school, and one of my students came up to me and he said, what is it that makes actors want to do films? He was just kind of asking more one-on-one questions. And so I said to him, well, you know what? if you ever make a film, let me know. And lo and behold, like, 5 years later, he contacted me and he asked me to be in his film. The reason why I'm bringing this up is it's a different film called Falling Up. But I originally would have not done it, but except for the fact that this kid showed me that he had stayed in it for a long time and that he stuck to it. And then when I did that role, one thing led to another, and I actually got my first award. I've never gotten any awards for the films, for the work I've done. I think it's probably just because of the subject matter or the script, but this particular film that I did was called Falling Up, and it was sort of an X-Files, sort of a 1950s kind of story. Beautiful film if you ever see it at a film festival. And it was, I won Best Supporting Actress at Hollywood Independent Reel Film Fest. So that was my first thing. And I thought, I'm never doing another one. That was it. I did my token one and was wonderful to do. And then Stuart came up with this. And I said, all right, I'll take a look at the script. I don't have no promises if I'll do it, but I will take a look. And I really, really enjoyed it. I really thought it was special. And I thought, and I really liked the role that I was given. And it didn't even matter to me that I was the main character. What mattered to me was the role. And I thought, oh, I can do something with this. Anytime I get a part that is interesting and takes me further into a different world, I just love it. So that the role intrigued me, the subject matter intrigued me. And then the third thing was I was very excited to work with other British actors. It was very exciting. And it was a different experience and I love it. I mean, we're sitting and we're doing this dialogue and it's not like, I have to talk and try to talk like my other counterpart talks and then, or they don't have to talk like an American, it was like, we got to be real and have those voices be heard together. And I just thought it was an interesting world. I don't know how often that happens in film that you get to, put that together. So it was really, it was what I think was fascinating is the American and the British relationship was casual and sort of a given as opposed to the point of the story. So I really liked the interaction and I liked the subject matter and I liked the people. Stuart, I trust him. I trusted the people I worked with, and Aaron Truss and his father. Beautiful script. I mean, I was really impressed with it. I'm really glad they decided to do this. So the thing about it is, when I did it, and after we finished it, I was like, this should be a feature. I mean, all I can say is when you see it, you can let me know what your thoughts are. But I thought it really speaks to a feature film. So
yeah,
I hope
I
that
mean,
they can bring it to that.
It is. I have to say that's one of the things that I really stood out for it. I mean, actually, Aaron, he sent me over a preview link of it, which I watched the other day, and I thought, well, and that's the crazy thing when you watch something on a laptop, but I can already see how the film's going to play on a bigger screen, so it's quite interesting. So, obviously, being generalized, I'm going to be generalized about some of your past work anyway, because it's always interesting. But we're gonna talk about it in the context of. Because you've worked with some really key actors over the years, some really name actors. I mean, James Olsen, for example, Burt Young, Tanya Alder, to name Keanu Reeves and Alex Winter and other stuff like that. But what I also noticed, I was looking for your television credits on IMDb, and you've appeared in some interesting content. What I'm curious to know is when you reflect on when you work on television today compared to when you do guest starring roles on those early shows, because I always remember Quinn Martin, it would say special guest stars, so-and-so and so-and-so. I mean, yeah. How important are guest starring roles for actors today? Are they still valid?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Guest starring parts are there's a lot of things that have to do with them. First of all, the guest star parts are what makes that episode unique, and it brings an energy to the show that is already, if a show is happening and it's got its mainstream actors that are within the context of the story, when the guest star shows up, all of a sudden everyone gets excited because either that person they wanted to work with, or perhaps it's going to focus part of the story on something very specific. So on one hand, the show people, the people who make shows, are very excited to have a good guest star on their shows, but also the actor themselves feels a big responsibility to come in and really nail it and give something that's memorable. So it's from both sides. And I, like, for instance, I did a show, a comedy, and it was with Scott Baio and Kenneth Mars. Okay, so Scott Baio was the person whose show it was, but then Kenneth Mars is a very famous actor from the movie The Producers, and we had just this wonderful relationship and great connection. And he played my father in the episode, and we just were joking around and stuff, but we all knew that we all had to be on top of our game when we got there. Like, everybody knew exactly what they wanted to do, and then it was just, let's play and let's see what happens in the moment. And sometimes, I always tell my students, I said, you can never be the audience and the actor at the same time. You can never watch your own performance while you're doing it. You need to be totally into it. And so while you're doing your performance, and you're working and you're focusing on your character, later on, you can enjoy the dynamics of being the audience and laughing at it and stuff. But during it, you need to be real, and yet need to be truthful. So I think guest star roles are very important in both respects, for the audience to see too, and for the shows, whatever shows they have. Another person that I worked with on a guest spot was Angela Lansbury. And here's the funny part. I got to meet her, but I didn't get to work with her. She was in the same room as me when we worked, but she was watching what I was doing, but we didn't interact in the scene and have dialogue together. So it was really funny for me to be able, I knew, like, oh, okay, this performance I'm doing is in front of Angela Lansbury. So I was like, well, I got to be on my game for this. I got to commit, and I remember experiencing that and thinking, this is a funny experience, because it's almost harder to do a performance in front of a fellow actor than it is for anybody else, because they're the ones who are looking at it critically and saying, well, is this up to par? And, did you take advantage of the moments the best you could? And I don't know, it was an interesting experience. And I was young, so it was very cheap.
Yeah, I mean, I've got to talk about your evolution as an actress, because you were in a couple of key films back in the 80s and stuff, which were there. I'm just curious to know, when you were starting out as an actress and you are given up the opportunities, I mean, when a big project comes along, like a name project that you think, this is a studio film, it could well go out into lots of theaters in, across America, and then play internationally, as, we talked just before we came on about one particular title of that. But I mean, when you look back at your body of work, I mean, when you look at certain films and you look at their ultimate fate when they were released, I mean, are there films that you feel have grown and evolved since their original release? Do you feel that there are films that have got better? I mean, what would you, where do you stand on that?
When I first started acting, obviously my focus was on doing my best and doing the work and making sure that I gave a really memorable performance for whatever I did. I mean, I knew that when I walk away from a performance, it's like I go, I don't want to have any regrets. I don't want to say I wish that I had done something. And it's a progression. Obviously, you start where you're not sure and you're learning and you're watching. The one thing I always wanted to do is work with good people, because you learn from working with good people. When you act with people who are professionals, you learn and you learn. So this is something that was something I've always wanted to continue doing. When I started, I was more shy and passive. And as I've gotten, the more I acted, the more I stepped out of my comfort zone. I mean, I and believe me, like, I acted 9 years before I got my first leading role. So, I mean, I was growing up, and I did television, film, commercials, soap opera, theater, voiceovers. I did, all different kinds of parts of the entertainment business. But it took a while, you know, and you're growing too as a person. This combination of everything happening at the same time. When okay, now you have to ask the question again. Now I've moved on to so many different
No,
things.
it was just generally, you are doing fine. I mean, it was just more about your evolution as an actress and craft, and compared to,
right.
you know, when you started and where you are now. And are there particular works that kind of, that's what I was talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so that is a good question too, because when I was younger, it was encouraged, do not take acting lessons, because they didn't want to ruin what was natural in the actor. But then after a while they go, well, you know, maybe you should start taking things. And certainly as an actor, when things don't pop, you're like, oh, maybe I better take class, maybe I better like start working on my craft, whatever, to keep moving forward. But it was interesting because I'm also a very instinctive actress. And I believe that when, you know, I took some technique classes, but sometimes those things can get very heady and they keep you out of what's in the moment and what's at least when you're starting off and when you're young, you know, I mean, it's almost like somebody telling you how to do something, and it's a mechanical thing rather than it's an organic thing. So I was very much instinctive. I watched other actors in order to learn from them, really study them is, I would say, my early training, to watch how they worked, and not just technical, but the choices that they made. I think that is another thing. Just because you're an actor doesn't mean you're making the best choices for you. So that was kind of an interesting also situation. I still watch actors. I still say to myself, how did they get there, and what would I have to do to get to that place? Because everybody works differently. Some people are kinesthetic, some people are visual, audio learners. So we all learn differently, and we take the information in differently. So anyway, then later on in my life, I took as Meisner. I got into a Meisner technique. I did it for 2 years. So that was part of that. And I studied other techniques as well. But I think what was interesting for me in technique was I realized, wow, there's all these different ways of getting to the same thing, in that it's truth and honesty, being in the moment. It's all this different language wrapped around this concept of just making the most of every moment that is in a film, and looking at the choices and servicing the script, you know? So after I studied that, now when I was younger, you know, there were certain characters I was often hired to play the ingenue, the innocent, the victim, and then it turned into the empowered girl, like different archetypes, right? So after I studied, the interesting part about doing roles now is that I have all this life experience combined with all the training, and now I can take it and bring it into my own, which is surprising the audience. You know, I really want to bring cool, interesting characters into my work, and engaging and just unpredictable, sort of. That's one of the things I like in when I watch a film. And you know, there's a lot of actors who are a lot better than me. They have a, and when I say better, what I mean is they have an organic voice that just resonates, or perhaps they have these facial structure that is like, you know, encompassing, or these eyes that bring a lot of emotion, or you know, everyone's got something different that they bring. So I have a lot of respect for all the people that I work with and other actors. I feel like everyone has something special to bring, and that's the idea is, when you do a film, you know, if everyone's at the top of their game and everyone's doing their best, my gosh, that's magic. I mean, that is the magic of film. That is the magic of theater. You just want everybody to really get in there, you know, do some critical thinking about their characters, and experiment and play, you know.
Okay.
So,
now, inevitably, we have had to kind of dovetail our conversation about certain things because of what's happening at the moment in the industry and how certain things are happening. But I do want to talk about something that is before that, which probably has been overlooked in a way. And I'm just curious to know, because of course before this there was Me Too and Time's Up and the effect and cancel culture and woke and everything else. So I'm sort of curious to know, when you reflect on where, you know, in terms of what Time's Up and Me Too have done to heighten the involvement or the, you know, the commitments of women in film, feminism and everything else. I mean, where do you feel progress has been made, and where do you feel there's work and still needs to be done?
That's a wonderful question. You know, the hashtag Me Too situation, it hit hard, and it hit a button in so many women actors, because we have been in the entertainment business for so long. At least a lot of my contemporaries have been in it, and we have either experienced or seen harassment, or, you know, some kind of being put in a compromised situation which made us feel uncomfortable. I have been very fortunate, because I started as a young girl, that I kind of had my boundaries up early, and I didn't have anyone ever come to me and try to take advantage of me that way. But that's not to say I didn't have people try who weren't in the entertainment business, which is a very bizarre, strange thing. You think, oh, you know, watch being in the entertainment business, that's a dangerous thing. No, because everyone's job is on the line. So you know, most people are pretty aware of their behavior. But that said, the fact that the Me Too movement came up is incredibly important, because it now is used as a reference when something is uncomfortable. So for example, if you're an actor and you're on set and something happens, before the Me Too movement hit, you would say, oh, you know, hey, stop hitting on me. And then the person who would be hitting on you perhaps would say, oh, you know, you're just being too sensitive, and, you know, making believe that it didn't really happen. You'd be ghosted. Or perhaps something happened, and then they'd say, listen, I'm going to take, you know, this will be something I'm going to, you know, I'll ruin your career in the entertainment business based on it. Like, it'll be a threat or a bribe or something horrible, right? So there was nothing to hold on to. Nowadays, if something happens, you could say, hey, you know, hashtag Me Too, watch what you're saying. And suddenly, because there've been repercussions, that light bulb will go off in the minds of whoever it is said to. Whether they do that and follow the direction, whether they believe in it, we have no control over. But the fact that there's that paper trail is essential, because there has to be an understanding that there are consequences to behavior that is not okay. Really, like, just, you cannot take advantage of anyone. And it doesn't matter what sex. You've got to, and I was going to say this, like, look, I really do understand that when you work with somebody, you feel very comfortable with them. You get to know them. Maybe there's something that, you know, you spend a lot of time with them. But there's a difference between saying to somebody, you know, I like you, you want to go out, and another than saying, you know, I'm your boss, or I'm somebody who has power and control of your money, and I'm going to use that to manipulate you. So that's, I have a role, you know, do you want it? Well, let's see what you'll do for it. You know, that's something that is, that shouldn't be part of the story, you know. And I mean, unfortunately it is. And I will tell you this, I thought it was over. I really thought, oh, when that hit, when the hashtag Me Too came in, I was like, oh my gosh, now we don't have to worry about that. But it still happens. So, and, you know, this is just where we are in the universe right now. This is where the universe is like going through each situation in that. It's the karma of life, right? So you can't get to everything all at once, but that was the particular time when women got, or and I'm not just going to even say women, harassment, and bribery, and you know, that kind of awkwardness, and also, you know, horrific experiences can be addressed. So I'm glad that it happened, you know, I mean, for that reason, that it will always be now a paper trail for, you know, people who are in that situation.
Yeah, I have to say that I've worked with women in my jobs over the years, and in a way, you know, when I look back at how I behaved, But the funny thing is there's this banter kind of thing that goes on, and there's a sense that there is a line, you have banter, and then there is a line that you don't cross, and then you have to respect that. I'm going to just wrap up. I've got 2 or 3 more questions to throw your way, and I just want to ask you, your children are involved in the media, as I understand. And I'm just curious to know when they were growing up and when they were trying to make their own way in the industry. I mean, I understand they're established now in their own way. I mean, what sort of advice and mentoring did you give them?
Oh, that's a very funny question. They got advice and mentoring every single time I had them in the car. So it was like they couldn't escape. I mean, every morning I would say, okay, so this is what I want to tell you. This may not make sense, but right now, anything from, okay, I want you to understand when you have a lot of tension, take a deep breath, let it go, let tension go around you, don't let it go through you, like all kinds of stuff like that, which, and when they're younger, they were kind of looking at me like, Mom, what is happening? Why are you telling me this? But I do have a lot of advice for my kids. But I also know, like, there's a time you can't force someone to understand something. And sometimes it's so important for them to experience themselves, right? You can give somebody advice, but when they're not ready to receive it, it will go away. You can tell somebody, don't go through that door. They're going to go through that door because you said don't go through that door. That's that's human nature. So I feel like with my kids, you do the best as far as, sharing and warning. I know, like with my kids being in the entertainment business, my daughter's in entertainment business. My son is a classical musician, but he's learned a lot watching everything. But they've both learned that, it's a people business. You're seeing a lot of people. It's not like you're just sitting in a room reading books. You're involved and you're dealing with people. So it's very important to practice those social skills. So I think, if anything, being an actor has given me the gift of being able to be more social, but I wasn't born that way. I was very shy. And I still am. I really am a shy person, but I really always try to go outside my comfort zone. And I really try to make that even today, even doing interviews. I say to myself, well, it's a moment in time. It will go away if I don't take the moment. And so that's part of it. So to my kids, yes, I give them advice all the time. And I would have to say the biggest thing I would say is be brave, and you'll never regret being brave, because bravery brings confidence and move forward. I really will say that as my main.
Well, we are running out of time, but I'm going to ask you one last question. I mean, my last question is basically, what are you most proud of about your career?
Oh, that's a great question. And I'm not even going to answer that with a project, because I've had so many moments of like, I really, really loved, favorite projects. And then I also have the life outside the projects, like even in between, like even the things I didn't get were such a adventure. I'd have to say the thing I'm proudest about is my bravery. Yeah. And my love for adventure and taking the journey. It's been an amazing journey in my life. That's the thing I'm proudest of, and that I stuck in there and I held on. I never stopped going after my dream. I guess I have to say that. So that's like the big picture stuff. I don't know if you.
No, that's great. Diane, I think it's been absolutely brilliant. I mean, thank you so much for sharing your insights into your career and your reflections on life and creativity. I mean, your work speaks for itself. I think that's what we'll say. And I think inevitably anybody who sees this interview they'll say, that they can look through it anyway. So on that note, please do check out PAREIDOLIA at Frightfest. If you passes have gone now, but please do go to frightfest.co.uk to see if there are any spare tickets available. The Frightfest is inevitably one of the most popular genre festivals of all time. and it's part of it. The short will be screening as part of a whole block of shorts which showcase the best of the world. You can watch this and other interviews via my official YouTube channel, John Higgins Film Review. And for more articles, interviews, and reviews, you can go to www.filmandtvnow.com. And please do also check out my brand new film resource website, www.whatmovie.co.uk. And on that note, thank you again, Diane, and thank you for watching.
Thank you so much for having me on the show.
Yes.